a minute ago, I'm going to eventually be in the book of Job. But I want to start out. I got a couple of places here I want to go to and read. And I have no idea how this is. I got up this morning, and I know with the Lord all things are possible, and how He's going to do it, Brother Terry, I'm not sure. But we're just going to trust in Him and just do what He would have us to do. The first verse I want to read to you. Well, let me go over here and find it. I got part of it memorized, but I want to read you the whole thing. I believe it's in the book of Exodus. Terry likes it when we get into the Old Testament. Chapter 3, down about verse 14. Exodus 3 and 14 says, "And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you." And we all know and we all recognize what I am is. And you've heard about it your whole life probably, but I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this and just see what the Lord have to add to that. Because in the book of Hebrews, 13th chapter, I've got a few verses there, and then we're going to go over the book of Philippians first. The book of Hebrews, 13th chapter, starting at verse 1, says, "Let brotherly love continue. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Remember them that are in bonds, as bound with them, and them which suffer adversity, as being yourselves also in the body. Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as you have. For he hath said, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. And I will not fear what man shall do unto me." And out of the book of Hebrews, I just want to reiterate on verse 5 where it says, Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as you have. He hath not thee, nor forsake thee. Now I want to go over to the book of Philippians in the 4th chapter and read 3 verses here. It says, "Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me." I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Wherever I am to be content. Now, keeping all that in mind, we're going to go over now to the book of Job. We're going to start a little bit in the first chapter, and it's hard to tell where we're going to end up. We're going to start in the first chapter and just see what the Lord has us to get out of it. We're going to go down to about the 7th verse, but before we get into that, if everyone just bow your head for a moment this morning. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, as we come to you this morning, we thank you once again for this beautiful day that you've given us. We thank you for your continued grace and mercy that you bestow upon us daily, dear Heavenly Father. We just love you and thank you for all things. We just pray, Lord, that you just take over this service and just lead God and direct it, dear Heavenly Father, to where thou would get the will, the goodness out of it, dear Heavenly Father. And just pray, Lord, that whatever thy will is, that we would accomplish it, Lord. And we just love you. We praise you. We thank you for all things. And just use us for a small amount of time, dear Heavenly Father, and just get us out of the way to where thy will would be accomplished. And all these things we ask in Jesus' name, and amen. All right, the book of Job. Everybody, Brother Terry referenced the book of Job there just a little bit ago. Let me put it in my book. Everybody has heard what Job had went through and everything that was brought upon Job. and how it came to be. So we're going to start down about the 7th verse and just touch on a few things right there. The 7th verse says, "And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil." Now, if you just read the book of Job and just read through it, you may get some things that the Lord will show you. But when you just go back and study it and just contemplate on a lot of things, you've got Job here who's living a pretty good life. Job at this point has approximately 11,000 animals, different herds of animals. He has a pretty good life right now. Things are going well for Job. And the Lord speaks unto Satan and have you thought about Job? You know, the Lord has confidence in Job. And he asked Satan, he said, "Have you thought about my servant Job?" There was nobody else like him. Nobody else like him. He wasn't like me or Brother Terry or Brother Bruce or any of us here. There was none other like him. Job was a good man that feared God. And the Lord basically says, Satan, have you thought about Job? And it goes down, we drop down to about the 14th verse here, and you'll find out that the Lord told Satan, you can take whatever Job's got, but you can't touch his life. You can do with him whatever you will, but you can't touch his life. And he goes down the 14th verse, and you find out if you read on down through there that upon Job at this point. Job had a lot of things go wrong in a very, very short period of time. It says in verse 14, "And there came a messenger unto Job and said, The oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding beside them. And the Sabians fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword. I only am escaped alone to tell thee." That would be some pretty bad news to get. That would be some heartbreaking news to get for Job. Everything's going good, and all of a sudden something goes wrong. One thing goes wrong. Verse 16 says, "While he yet speaking there came also another and said, The fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep, and the servants have consumed them. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee." First it's one thing, Brother Terry. Now it's two things. That snowball is starting to gain some speed here. Everything going his way. Probably 2 minutes ago, everything is turning up roses. And now things are going bad. 17 said, "While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, The Chaldeans made out 3 bands and fell upon the camels and have carried them away. Yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee." While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, "Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in the eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee." Now, I don't know how long it took me to read that, but I'm figuring it didn't take much longer than that for that to happen in real life to Job. You can figure Job went from everything going good, Brother Terry. He's got everything he needs, everything he wants. He's been abundantly blessed by the Lord. 5 minutes later, he's lost everything. He's lost everything that he's worked for. It's all gone now. Imagine if that was you and that happened, Bruce. If you got everything going along and all of a sudden 5 minutes later you've lost everything. I would be devastated. I would be tore up like a can of crap, Brother Terry. I'd be having a bad day. I really would. And a lot of us would. We've all fallen into this same category here. We wouldn't be happy people right now. We wouldn't consider this, Brother Billy, a good day. We wouldn't. But what does Job do? Verse 20. After having all this bad news, Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshipped. First thing he done, Brother Bruce, is he went to the Lord in prayer. As soon as these guys stopped talking to him, as soon as he had a minute to contemplate and figure out what his next action should be, he got down on his knees and he prayed to the Lord. And he said, naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Ooh, well, I wish I could be more like Job. Amen. I'd be saying, woe is me, Brother Billy. Amen. I'd be saying, man, why did you bring this upon me? But all Job did, he said, you know what? The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. I didn't have nothing when I came in. I ain't going to have nothing when I go out. Why? It's all the Lord's anyway. Job, with this and all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. He didn't charge God foolishly. Not one time in this did he say, God, why did you let this happen? God, why did my children all have to perish? God, why did they come and kill or take all the camels away? Why did they come and take all the sheep and burn all the sheep up? But remember, the Lord said, I will never leave thee, and I will never forsake thee, Brother Terry. And I thought about this. And I tried to research this. I tried to study this and get the answer. I thought I had the answer that I was looking for. So I dug a little deeper. Guess what, Brother Chuck? I still ain't come up with it. I still don't have the answer. Because I would go to this book and what this commentary said, and I'd go to what this commentary said, and what Charles Stanley said, and I went to what this one said, and trust me, I went to several of them. None of them actually gave me the answer that the Lord was leading me to, or what I had read in here. And if you can get that, more power to you. I'm going to tell you what the Lord showed to me. Job is having what we might consider a really bad day here. He's lost everything. He's lost his sons, his daughters, his oxen, his sheep, his camel. Every time it had happened within a 5 or 10 minute period that all ends with, before the next one starts speaking, it says, I only am escaped alone to tell thee. You have 4 messengers here. Verse 14 speaks of it, and it says, and there came a messenger unto Job. I'm just kind of curious, Brother Terry, who that messenger is. Why did he survive? Everybody else got killed. Everybody else was slaughtered. They took the sword and killed him. Why did these 4 messengers, or how did these 4 messengers survive? And not only did they survive, Brother Bruce, you can read, and I know this is translated, I understand that. You can read the King James, you can read the NIV, the NLV, doesn't matter. I checked all of them, and they all have the end of it. They might say it a little different, but the end of 15, 16, 17, and 19, they all say the same words. Exactly. The response was exactly the same, everybody that came to him. Now, the first one that got there, I don't believe he heard what the last one, or the second one that got there, I don't believe he heard what the first one said. I don't believe the third one heard what the second one said, or the fourth one or the third. But they all ended it the same way. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Where did this messenger come from? Who was it? And then I keep going back. And the Lord says, I'll never leave you, and I'll never forsake you. I believe the Lord is the one that sent these messages. Do I have proof in here? No, I do not. I've tried to find proof. I've tried to research it. Some say Satan sent them. Some say the Lord sent them. Some say nothing about it at all. I believe the Lord sent these messengers unto Job. I believe they came with typically the same message. I only am escaped alone to tell thee. I'm here for you. I escaped to come and tell you. I'm here. I only am escaped alone to tell thee. I'm going to say at the end of this, you may not have caught it going through here, but I'm going to say at the end of it, when everything was said and done, and Job was standing there by himself, and everybody had stopped what they were saying, do you think it might went into Job's mind? Why did everybody say it the same way, Brother Bruce? Why did they all come the same way? I don't know. Other than I believe it's a sign from God to give him some sort of comfort, to let him know that he's still there with him, to let him know that I'll never leave you, I'll never forsake you, I'll be with you all the way, even unto the end. I know the Lord has showed me things in ways that I never thought he would do, Brother Terry. He has showed me that he's still there in ways that you may not understand. And I know he has showed you in ways that I may not understand. He deals with us individually, as individuals. He says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. When I worked out my salvation, and between me and God, he has showed me certain things in certain ways that some people or a lot of people wouldn't understand. And I'm sure it's the same with you. When I do wrong, he lets me know in ways that I understand. It's not always the same way. It's different ways from time to time. But I get the message loud and clear. And I believe Job got the message that the Lord's still with him. Sure, I've had a lot of things go wrong here. I've basically lost everything that I've worked for, everything that I've got. But I believe God's still with me. So what's the first thing that he does? He gets down upon his knees and he goes to the Lord and he goes to him in prayer. And he says, Lord, I came in here with nothing. I'm going to leave with nothing. That's what he says. You know, that's what we're going to do. When we came into this world, we didn't have anything. I had no possessions that I own. Guess what? When I leave this world, Brother Terry, I'm leaving and not taking any of those possessions with me. Or not having anything. And naked I shall leave this world. Or not have anything. Realize that. But a lot of times we try to hoard things up, Brother Billy. We try to get a stockpile of good things that we can keep with us or take with us when we leave here. I heard a guy say one time, he talked about all the gold that he had bought up and saved up. He took a lot of his money and, you know, one thing as far as finances go that never loses the value, from what I've been told, Brother Terry, is gold. You can buy gold and stockpile it up. It's going to increase. You've got pretty good odds of that. And that's what he had done. Well, then when he died, had all this gold stockpiled up, and they had told him before, he died, that when he died, they wanted to put that in the casket with him. He wanted to take that gold with him. Brother Bruce, he wanted to take it with him. So they put the gold in the casket with him. He said, well, good. You brought pavement. That's all it's going to be there. But we got people down here that will murder, steal, lie, whatever, to gain whatever they can gain down here. It's not going to benefit us there, Brother Billy. We need to do things down here that's going to benefit us there. Job understood that. Job understood that these worldly possessions don't mean anything. I came into this world with nothing. I'm going to leave with nothing. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. In all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly.
Amen.
I'm not a Job. Amen. I am not a Job. But I'm going to read just a little bit farther here. And I'm not going to keep you real long this morning. So read just a little bit farther here. Because I want to go over, and you know, we'll just read it here real quick. It says, again, there was a day when the sons of God came present before the Lord, and Satan also came among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, once again, the Lord said unto Satan, from whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. This wasn't the first time this has happened, people. Then he says in verse 3, and the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? You ever throw anybody under a bus? The Lord just threw Job under a bus for the second time. What about Job? Have you considered my servant Job? And it goes on and says that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil, and still he holdeth fast his integrity. The Lord, I believe right there, Brother Terry, the Lord is telling Satan, see there? He's still holding on. What you done to him last time didn't accomplish a thing. He's still holding on. He is still hold steadfast in his integrity. Although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. And verse 4 says, and Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for sin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. All that a man hath will he give for his life, Brother Bruce. 5 says, but put forth thine hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. Basically, the Lord said you can do whatever you want to with him. Whatever manner of disease, whatever you want to do to him, you can do it. But the one thing you cannot do is take his life. That's some pretty broad spectrum right there of the things that can be brought upon Job. But you can't take his life. See, the whole thing about this, when you think about it, the Lord is talking to Satan, tells him that he can touch Job in however he wants to. The one thing he cannot do is take his life. But guess what? Job is not in on this conversation. Job don't know what they're talking about. Job doesn't know that this isn't going to cost him his life. You do when you see how Job handles this. He goes on and says, so went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with sore bulls from the sole of his foot unto his crown. Anybody in here had a bull? One? I have. They hurt, don't they, Terry? Yeah. One hurts. I cry miserably with one. Tears. I don't like him. Job has got him from the soles of his foot to the top of his head and all of the areas in between. All of the areas in between. Job has got bulls. Now, Job's day just went from bad to worse. Now, if I'm Job, I'm thinking, man, this ain't going to last long. It's going to kill me. But remember, it can't kill him. Because the Lord done told Satan, you can't take his life. But Job don't know that. I'm sure if I'd be in Job's position right now, Brother Terry, I'd be thinking I'm short time for this world. I'm going to be seeing the Lord before long because I can't take this. It goes on and it says in verse 8, and he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down in ashes. People, if he wasn't in pain before, he's in pain now. He has scraped the bulls with a potsherd, and he sat down in the ashes. Job is having, from what I can gather and what I can read, one of the most miserablest times that he could possibly have and still be alive. He's in the utmost pain that he can possibly deal with and still be alive. He's having a really, really hard time. Not only this, but remember, he's lost everything that he's got. All of his children, all of his animals, everything's gone. And now he's dealing with this. Now he's dealing with this. You know, a lot of with something, when things have come upon us and we're having a bad day, or we're sick, or we're not feeling well, or whatever it may be, you know, a lot of times we realize this ain't that bad. I'll get through this. I'll just go to the Lord and ask for prayer. Or this is going to be bad, but I can handle this. With the Lord's help, I can get through this. Because it says in the Bible that with God, all things are possible. And I mean all things are possible. And it also says, like we read earlier, I will never leave you and I will never forsake you. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be there. He's going to be there when we need him. Brother Bruce, when we call upon him, the Lord's going to be there. I have that assurance in my salvation. When me and him sat down and worked it out with fear and trembling, when we worked it out, he let me know that when I needed him, he'd be there. All I have to do is initiate the conversation. And he'll hear me. I will never leave you, nor I will never forsake you. Job knows this. Job, I believe, is doing all right, other than being in the intense pain that he's in. But what else happens here? Verse 9. Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thine integrity? Dost thou still retain thine integrity? His wife is saying, let me take count. Let me just keep score here. You've lost all your sons. You've lost all your daughters. You've lost all your camel, all your sheep. You've lost everything. And now you've got bulls from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, but still yet you retain your integrity. Why don't you just curse God and die? Now you may think that sounds rather harsh from her. You may think that sounds out of the ordinary for her. You may think maybe she shouldn't have said that. I would have to agree. But I want you to know that a lot of times it ain't the person going through it that has the hardest time with it. If the devil wants to get to you, the easiest way to get to you is through your loved ones.
That's right.
The easiest way to cause you problems is through your loved ones, through your husband, through your wife, through your children, through your parents. That's how he can get to you, is causing something to come upon them. It seems like it's working not toward Job, but it's working toward his wife. Job is still retaining his integrity. Job is still knowing, I'm going to get through this.
Amen.
Job is still saying, I came here with nothing. I'm going to leave with nothing. But he knows he's going to be leaving with something that he didn't have when he got there. And that's God. He knows that when he leaves here, as long as he keeps his integrity, he's going to be all right. He's going to be better off on the other side. But his wife is watching him go through all this. And she says, why don't you just curse God and die? You'll be out of this misery. You'll be out of all these bulls. You won't have to worry about none of this. And you know what? She's right. But he'll have greater worries if he does that.
That's right.
He'll have greater worries if he listens to her and he curses God and die. But it's hard to watch our loved ones suffer through things like she is suffering. I don't believe she's trying to give him bad information. I believe she's tired of seeing him suffer, Brother Terry. I believe she's tired of seeing him go through this. But Job, once again, retaining thy integrity, says unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. It goes on and says, what? Shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil? We only going to... Brother Terry, or is every now and then we're going to have a bad day?
Yes.
This is what tribulation is like. This is what trials is like. This is what troubles are like. We're going to have them in our life. Now we can either meet these the way Job's wife meets these, or we can meet these the way that Job meets these. He retained his integrity. He basically said, woman, you don't know what you're talking about. That's how Bruce would have phrased it too, by the way. Woman, you don't know what you're talking about. He said we get good things. Shouldn't we also get bad things? Don't you remember, wife, that we had good days? Shouldn't we also every now and then have a bad day? We don't blame the Lord for this. And then go over into verse 3. I'm getting ready to close here. Chapter 3. You go over in chapter 3 and read there and you'll say, well, in chapter 3 it says that Job cursed the day that he was born. Read it again. It doesn't really mean that Job cursed the day as in language, as in filthy words. What it means is Job he wished a curse upon the day that he was born. Basically, in chapter 3, it takes 26 verses for Job to say, man, I wish the day that I was born was cursed. I wish I'd have never been born. But he's a lot more eloquent than I am. It takes him 26 verses to say that. You can notice right there that he considers and thinks about what he's going to say and how he's going to say it when the Lord's listening to him. A lot of times I just blurt it out. It takes him 26 verses to wish the day that he was born never happened. That's what it means when cursed today. He still didn't physically curse today language-wise, use bad words or whatever it may be. He just cursed today that he had never been born. Why? He's in severe agony. You can read where his friends came to him and they sat there for 7 days, and I think they met to Job. They seen he was in misery. Could you just go and sit with somebody for 7 days, Brother Terry, and you want to talk to them? You want to try to explain or hear their explanation, and you want to see what they got to say, and you sit there and look at them for 7 days because you know they're in that much pain that they don't want to talk or they don't want to listen to you. That's how much pain Job was in. But still yet, he retained his integrity. He said, woman, we're going to get good things. Won't we get bad things? We're going to have things come to us in this life. We're going to have good days. We're going to have bad days. We're going to have trials. We're going to have tribulation. We're going to have happy days. We're going to have days that we deal. Everyone in here has dealt with a loss of a loved one, whether it be a child, a parent, a husband, a wife, whatever it may be. We've all dealt with that. We all deal with it in different ways. But when we deal with it, there's one thing that we need to remember. One thing: I will never leave you nor forsake you. I will go with you all the way, even unto the end. So whatever we're going through, whatever Job is going through, he's going to let us know in some way that he's still there. Like I said, just for me personally, I think the messenger that came to Job was a sign to Job that the Lord's still there. The Lord's still with you. He's still got your back. And he's going to do different people, different messengers, or different signs. Remember, it also says we have all entertained angels unaware. So be careful. Be careful when you reject somebody. You may be rejecting an angel. I read a story not too long ago about the man that was coming to pastor a new church, and he sat outside. Y'all probably read it too. He sat outside the church before service, and he was dressed as a homeless man, and everybody that went in the church, nobody would speak to him. Nobody would give him any money. They just shunned him and wouldn't have nothing to do with him. And then service started, and the deacons introduced their new pastor that was. And you imagine their surprise when that homeless man walked in and he was the new pastor? Remember, we've entertained angels unaware. Be careful who you shun. It teaches us to love everybody. It doesn't just say to love the ones that are easily lovable. It says everybody. Some of us, as me and cheater Brother Terry, we aren't easily lovable. But the Bible tells them they got to love us, Brother Terry.
Thank goodness.
We got to love each and every one of us. We all are trying to get to a place. We all are trying to be as much like Job as we can. I fail a lot of times. My integrity doesn't retain as quickly as Job hangs on to his. When trials and tribulations come, I have a bad day. I question a lot of things. As I shouldn't do. Job didn't do it. I shouldn't do it either. And neither should you. Remember, if you're a child of the God, or He's never going to forsake you. I want you to remember something else. If you're a child of God, the devil is never going to quit tempting you.
That's right.
The devil will give up on you. The devil's never going to say, all right, Lord, you got him, you can have him. It's not what he's going to say. He's going to put another trial or another temptation toward you to try to win you back. Now, here's what I want you to remember, and this is what should put a smile on your face. I want you to remember the time that something negative happened to you. Like you lost a wife, a husband, a child, a parent, a friend, a close person, whomever it may be. Whomever it may be. Now, all the tribulations that you've had, the sicknesses that you've had, everything that's went on in your life, This should put a smile on your face when you think that there was one day, maybe not too many years ago or days ago, that the Lord said, Satan, what are you doing? He said, I'm just walking up, going to and fro. And the Lord said, well, have you considered my servant Terry? Or my servant Chuck? Or my servant Bruce? Or my servant Becky? Or my servant Margie? There's none like him. Give him a try. I've got confidence in him. The Lord has confidence in us that we're going to do the right thing. Don't you think it's about time that we have confidence in Him? That He'll do what He said? That He'll never leave us? He'll never forsake us? He'll be with us all the way, even unto the end. Why do I believe that? Because I read the Bible. I read the Bible not as much as I should, but I read it everywhere in there. The Lord says, I'm going to do this. I done this. I done that. He died so I could live. He let them beat Him so I could stay unbeaten, so I could go to heaven. He is the great I am.
Amen.
Everything that I have today and that I am today is because that one time He said, I am the great I am. I'll do what I need to do. I'll go and do it. Father, send me. I'll go. I want to be the sacrifice for them. He is the great I am.
Amen.
He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. Have trials, tribulations, go to Him. He says you have not because you ask not. What does that mean? You got to ask. You got to ask. I want my children to ask me when they want something. He wants His children to ask Him when He wants something. And He'll listen to us. And He'll answer us. Why? Because He loves us.
Amen.
He loves us in a way that we can yet understand.
That's right.
I hope you got something out of this morning. I love each and every one of you. And please come back and be with us.